I never thought I would be sitting alone in our empty kitchen at 3 in the morning staring at my phone with tears streaming down my face. Just hours earlier, Jessica had stood in this exact spot and told me our 8 years of marriage were over. She wanted a divorce. Her mind was made up. There was someone else. The signs had been there for months, but I had refused to see them. What she did not know was that I had already discovered everything about her affair, hired a private investigator, and uncovered secrets that would shatter her new fantasy life with a single text message. Before I tell you how I discovered the painful truth that ended my marriage but ultimately saved me from years of deception, let me know where you are watching from. Hit that subscribe button if you want to hear more real-life stories we rarely talk about. When I first met Jessica during our junior year of college, I knew she was special. Her laugh could brighten the darkest room, and her passion for teaching children made me fall in love almost instantly. We dated for 3 years before I proposed on a snowy Christmas Eve under the twinkling lights of the city. The wedding was everything we had dreamed of, small and intimate, with just our closest friends and family. We bought our first home together in a quiet suburb outside of Chicago, a charming 3-bedroom ranch, with a backyard perfect for the family we planned to start. I worked as a software engineer for a growing tech company, and Jessica taught 2nd grade at Westbrook Elementary. We had built what I thought was the perfect life. Every morning we would have coffee together before work. I would make her favorite breakfast on Sundays, banana pancakes with a hint of cinnamon. She would leave little notes in my lunch bag with jokes or words of encouragement. These small gestures meant everything to me. We had been trying to have a baby for the past 2 years with no success. The disappointment was difficult, but I believed it only made our bond stronger. We supported each other through the negative pregnancy tests and doctor appointments. I held her when she cried after learning her sister was expecting. We talked about adoption as a possibility down the road. Despite the challenges, I never doubted our connection or commitment. Our vacations were always adventures we planned together. We had explored the Grand Canyon, driven the California coast, and spent a magical week in Hawaii for our 5th anniversary. Jessica had collected seashells from every beach we visited, displaying them proudly on our mantle. Our photo albums were filled with smiling faces and beautiful memories. I thought we were unbreakable. We had weathered storms before. When I lost my job 3 years ago during company layoffs, Jessica picked up extra tutoring hours to help with bills. When her father had a heart attack, I took time off work to drive her back and forth to the hospital 2 hours away. We had faced financial struggles, health scares, and family drama, but always as a team. Looking back, I should have noticed when things began to change. 6 months ago, Jessica started coming home later from school. At first, she said she was helping with after-school programs or attending faculty meetings. I believed her without question. Then she changed the password on her phone. When I asked about it casually, she claimed it was for added security after a colleague had their identity stolen. Again, I accepted her explanation without suspicion. She began to dress differently, wearing more makeup and buying new clothes. I actually complimented her, thinking she was just trying to boost her confidence. I was so blind to the truth that was right in front of me. She stopped asking about my day and sharing stories about her students. Our Sunday breakfasts became less frequent, as she claimed to need extra sleep or made plans with friends I had never met. The notes in my lunch stopped appearing. I told myself she was just going through something, perhaps depression about our fertility struggles or stress from work. I tried to be patient and understanding, giving her space, while letting her know I was there whenever she needed me. I had no idea that while I was trying to be the supportive husband, she was falling in love with someone else. The first undeniable sign came when I noticed Jessica taking phone calls in another room, speaking in hushed tones. If I entered, she would quickly end the conversation, or switch to discussing something work-related. Text messages would arrive late at night, and she would smile at her phone in a way she had not smiled at me for months. She began mentioning evening workshops and professional development courses that kept her at school until 8 or 9 at night. There were more frequent dinner meetings with colleagues I had never heard of before. Weekend commitments suddenly filled her calendar. When I suggested we take a weekend trip to reconnect, she claimed she could not get away from her responsibilities. Despite the warning bells ringing in my head, I desperately tried to save our marriage. I bought her flowers, randomly suggested date nights at her favorite restaurants, and even surprised her with tickets to a Broadway show she had been wanting to see. Each gesture was met with lukewarm enthusiasm or outright excuses why she could not participate. She was always too tired, too busy, or simply not interested. Our physical relationship had become nearly non-existent. Any attempt at intimacy was rebuffed with claims of headaches or exhaustion. When I tried to discuss the distance between us, she would deflect, saying I was being paranoid or too needy. She made me feel guilty for wanting to spend time with my own wife. The truth revealed itself on a rainy Tuesday evening. Jessica had left her phone on the kitchen counter while she took a shower. A notification lit up the screen with a message preview that made my heart stop. "I cannot wait to hold you again tomorrow. Last night was amazing." The sender was saved as Daniel W., someone she had mentioned as the new principal at her school. I stood frozen, the phone in my hand, feeling like the floor had disappeared beneath me. This was not a misunderstanding or my imagination. This was evidence of an affair. I placed the phone back exactly where I found it and went to our bedroom, my mind racing with questions and my heart breaking into pieces. The next day I did something I never thought I would do. I contacted a private investigator named Ryan Williams. Meeting him at a coffee shop far from our neighborhood, I felt ashamed and broken as I explained my suspicions. Ryan was professional and compassionate, assuring me this situation was more common than I realized, and that knowing the truth, however painful, was better than living in deception. For the next 2 weeks, Ryan followed Jessica discreetly. He took photographs, documented times and locations, and gathered undeniable evidence. When we met again, he handed me a folder containing dozens of photos showing Jessica and an older man entering hotels, kissing in a car, and holding hands in a park 30 miles from our home. Text message logs confirmed their relationship had been going on for at least 4 months. Daniel Walker was indeed the new principal at Westbrook Elementary. 41 years old, divorced twice, with a charming smile and prestigious position. I learned Jessica had been instrumental in helping him implement new programs at the school, earning her special recognition and the possibility of becoming the new curriculum coordinator, a position she had mentioned wanting but had stopped discussing with me. The evidence was irrefutable, but instead of confronting Jessica immediately, I felt a strange need to understand more about the man who had stolen my wife. Why had she chosen him? What could he offer that I could not? These questions kept me awake at night as I lay next to a woman who had become a stranger to me. I recommend we dig deeper into Daniel Walker before you decide how to proceed, Ryan suggested when I expressed my concerns. Something about his pattern seems familiar to me. I agreed, authorizing Ryan to investigate Daniel thoroughly. This decision would reveal far more than I ever anticipated and completely change my approach to the painful situation. As days passed, I maintained a facade of normalcy at home while internally processing my grief. I noticed Jessica becoming more distant, checking her phone constantly, and finding more excuses to be away from home. Each lie she told cut deeper than the last, but I remained silent, waiting for the full picture to emerge. Ryan called me a week later, his voice charged with unexpected excitement. "Logan, you need to see what I found. This goes beyond a simple affair. Can you meet today?" 4 hours later, I sat across from Ryan in his office as he unveiled the true nature of Daniel Walker and the devastation he had left in his wake across multiple schools and relationships. "Daniel Walker is a predator," Ryan explained, spreading numerous files across his desk. "Not in the criminal sense, but in his personal and professional life. This is his pattern." The investigation had uncovered that Daniel had a history of engaging in affairs with female teachers at each school where he had worked as an administrator. His 2 failed marriages were both due to his infidelity with colleagues. More disturbingly, he appeared to specifically target women who could help advance his career. "He is currently involved with at least 3 other women besides your wife," Ryan said, showing me photographs of Daniel with different women in various locations. One was Amanda Thompson, another teacher at Westbrook who worked on the school board committee. Another was a wealthy divorced parent whose donations had funded the new technology lab Daniel had been praised for establishing. Ryan had managed to obtain text messages between Daniel and these women, each containing similar romantic promises and future plans. None of them appeared to know about the others. In messages to a friend, Daniel had actually boasted about how Jessica had helped secure his new curriculum implementation that had caught the attention of the district superintendent. He referred to Jessica as his golden ticket to the district administration, Ryan said solemnly, showing me a transcript of a conversation where Daniel mocked Jessica's devotion to him while drinking with a friend at a bar. He has no intention of maintaining a long-term relationship with her. Once he gets the promotion he is aiming for, he will move on just like he did at his previous schools. The most revealing information came from an unexpected source. Ryan had located and interviewed Daniel's second ex-wife, Patricia, who worked as a guidance counselor. She described how Daniel had charmed and manipulated her into supporting his career advancement, only to discard her once he had secured a vice principal position through her connections. He uses the same lines on all of them, Ryan explained. The same restaurants, the same gifts, even the same pet names. It is like watching the same play with different actresses. The final piece of evidence was perhaps the most damning. Ryan had recorded a conversation at a principal's conference where Daniel openly discussed his plan to use his relationship with Jessica to secure recommendation letters from her influential family friends in the education department. He had laughed about how easy it had been to convince her that I no longer cared about her, systematically planting doubts about our marriage during their work interactions before making his romantic move. As I sat surrounded by evidence of this man's calculated deception, my anger toward Jessica began to transform. While her betrayal remained painful, I now saw her as another victim of Daniel's manipulation. He had expertly identified her vulnerabilities, our struggles with fertility, and my long work hours, and exploited them to drive a wedge between us. What should I do with all this? I asked Ryan, feeling overwhelmed by the scope of the deception. That depends on what outcome you want, he replied carefully. If you want to save your marriage, showing Jessica who Daniel really is might open her eyes. If you want a clean break, this evidence ensures you will not be taken advantage of in divorce proceedings. I spent days agonizing over my decision. Part of me wanted to protect Jessica from the humiliation that would come when Daniel inevitably discarded her. Another part felt she deserved to experience the consequences of her choices. What hurt most was realizing how easily she had believed negative things about me, how quickly she had abandoned our history together. While I deliberated, I compiled all the evidence into a comprehensive file, organizing the photos, messages, and testimonies chronologically. I included a timeline showing how Daniel had replicated the same pattern with multiple women. I was not sure if I would ever share it with Jessica, but preparing it helped me process the painful reality. Then one evening, as I was finishing dinner alone, Jessica walked in and sat across from me at our kitchen table with an expression I had never seen before, a mixture of determination and guilt. "I want a divorce," she said without preamble. "My mind is made up." The words hung in the air between us. Despite having suspected this was coming, hearing it spoken aloud felt like a physical blow. I set down my fork, carefully trying to keep my hands from shaking. "Can I ask why?" I managed to say, my voice calmer than I expected. Jessica took a deep breath. "We have grown apart, Logan. You must have noticed. We want different things now." She paused, then added, "And I have met someone else, someone who understands me in ways you never have." "Is it Daniel Walker?" I asked quietly. Her eyes widened in surprise. "How did you know that? You have been coming home smelling like cologne I do not own. You have been distant for months." "I am not blind, Jessica." She had the decency to look ashamed, but only briefly. "Daniel and I connected on a level that you and I never did. He supports my career ambitions. He listens when I talk about my day. When was the last time you really listened to me, Logan?" The accusation stung because it contained a kernel of truth. I had been working long hours on a major project for the past year, but I had always believed we were partners who understood the necessary sacrifices for our future together. "I tried to talk to you about feeling neglected," she continued. "You just bought me things instead of giving me your time and attention. Daniel makes me feel alive again. 8 years of marriage, and you are throwing it away without even trying to fix things," I asked. "No counseling, no real discussions about what is wrong. There is nothing to fix," she insisted. My feelings have changed. I did not plan for this to happen, but it did, and I need to follow my heart. I noticed she was wearing a new necklace, a small sapphire pendant that I had never seen before, a gift from him, no doubt. "I am moving in with Daniel this weekend," she added. "I have already packed most of my things. I thought we could discuss the house and finances like adults. No need for ugly court battles." The audacity was breathtaking. She had been planning this for weeks, packing secretly while I was at work preparing her exit, while sharing our bed and home. "I need some time to process this," I said finally. "Can you give me at least 24 hours before we discuss practical matters?" She seemed relieved by my calm response. "Of course, that is reasonable. I will come back tomorrow evening and we can talk about the details then." She stood up, hesitated, as if wanting to say something more, then simply walked out. I heard her car start in the driveway, and the sound of her driving away from our life together. As soon as she was gone, I broke down. I poured myself a glass of whiskey, then another. I looked at our wedding photos still hanging on the wall, remembering how happy we had been. I cried until there were no tears left, mourning not just the end of my marriage but the death of the future I had imagined for us. Around midnight, I opened the file containing all the evidence Ryan had collected. I read through every message, studied every photograph, and revisited every testimony. By 3 in the morning, I had made my decision. I would not fight to keep someone who had so easily discarded our marriage, but I would not let her walk away without knowing the truth about the man she had chosen over me. I spent an hour crafting a single careful text message. I attached photos of Daniel with his other lovers, screenshots of his demeaning messages about Jessica, and the testimony from his ex-wife describing his pattern of using women for professional advancement. I included Ryan's contact information for verification, and ended with the simple words, "I am agreeing to the divorce, but you deserve to know who you are leaving me for. I hope you find happiness, Jessica, but it will not be with him." I sent the message, then turned off my phone. Whatever happened next, I had done all I could do. I had chosen truth over vengeance, and somehow that brought me a small measure of peace as I finally fell asleep. My phone was ringing when I woke up the next morning. Jessica had called 17 times and left dozens of text messages. I listened to the first voicemail, her voice breaking as she sobbed, "Logan, please call me back. I need to talk to you. I made a terrible mistake. Please." I did not call her back immediately. Instead, I went for a long run, trying to clear my head and prepare for the conversation I knew was coming. When I returned home, Jessica was sitting on our front porch, her eyes red and swollen from crying. Her carefully applied makeup could not hide her distress. "How long have you known?" she asked as soon as I approached. "About a month," I replied, sitting down beside her but maintaining distance. "Why did not you confront me right away? I needed to understand what was happening. And honestly, I was hoping you would come to your senses on your own." She broke down again. "I have been such a fool, Logan. The things he said about me in those messages, and those other women. He told me they were just colleagues or friends. He said I was special, that he had never felt this way before. He says that to all of them," I said gently. "It is his pattern. He has been calling me non-stop since I confronted him last night. He denied everything at first, then got angry and blamed me for spying on him. Then he started making excuses and begging for another chance. I blocked his number." I nodded but said nothing. "Logan, I know I do not deserve it, but is there any chance we could try again? I made a horrible mistake. I let him manipulate me into believing lies about our marriage. I know now that what we have is real, and what he offered was just an illusion." Looking at her tear-stained face, I felt a complex mixture of love, pity, and resolution. Part of me wanted to comfort her, to hold her, and say we would work through this together. But another part, the part that had spent sleepless nights wondering what I had done wrong, knew that something fundamental had been broken. "Jessica, I will always care about you," I said carefully, "but you were ready to throw away 8 years together without even trying to fix things. You packed your bags secretly while I was at work. You blamed me for problems you never clearly communicated. How could I ever trust you again?" "I will do anything," she pleaded, reaching for my hand. "Counseling, complete transparency, whatever you need." I made one terrible mistake. It was not one mistake, I corrected her. It was hundreds of small choices over months. Each time you lied about where you were going. Each time you chose to meet him instead of talking to me. Each time you gave him information he used to drive us further apart. Her phone buzzed with another message. Daniel was still trying to reach her. "He is saying he will come to the school board about your relationship if I do not talk to him," she said, her voice shaking. "He is threatening to ruin my career." I suspected he might resort to that, I replied. Ryan documented his pattern of workplace relationships at previous schools. "If Daniel tries anything, that information goes to the superintendent. He knows that would end his career, not yours." Jessica looked at me with fresh tears. "You protected me even after what I did to you." "I did not want to see you hurt more than you already would be," I admitted. We sat in silence for several minutes, the weight of everything that had happened, and everything that would never be hanging between us. "I still want the divorce," I finally said. "I think we both need to move forward separately." She nodded slowly, acceptance, replacing desperation in her eyes. "I understand. I would not trust me either." We agreed to a fair division of assets. Jessica would move in with her sister temporarily while looking for her own place. I would keep the house since I could afford the mortgage payments alone. We would use a mediator rather than fighting through attorneys. The conversation was painful but necessary, and when she left that afternoon, it felt like the first step in a long healing process for both of us. The following months were difficult. I threw myself into work, spent time with friends who had stood by me, and started seeing a therapist to process my grief and anger. Jessica transferred to another school district, unable to face the whispers and rumors that inevitably circulated after she abruptly ended things with Daniel. I later heard that Daniel had indeed been investigated by the school board after another teacher came forward with similar experiences. He resigned before the investigation concluded, moving to another state to start fresh with a clean record, likely to repeat his pattern with new victims. 1 year after our divorce was finalized, I ran into Jessica at a mutual friend's wedding. She looked better, calmer. She had been in therapy too, she told me, working through her insecurities and learning to recognize manipulation. She was teaching at a new school and had recently been promoted to lead teacher. We wished each other well, and I was surprised to realize I genuinely meant it. The experience changed me profoundly. I learned that love alone is not enough to sustain a relationship. Trust, communication, and mutual respect are equally essential. I learned that it is possible to care about someone deeply while recognizing that you cannot build a future with them. Most importantly, I learned my own worth and the importance of maintaining boundaries. I started dating again, eventually approaching new relationships with greater wisdom and clearer expectations. I was more attentive, more present, more aware of the small disconnections that can grow into chasms if left unaddressed. When I met Allison, a wildlife photographer with a kind heart and straightforward communication style, I recognized something valuable and different in our connection. That single text message did not just end my marriage. It forced me to confront painful truths, but it also freed me to build a life more authentic and fulfilling than the one I had lost. Sometimes the hardest messages to send are the ones that ultimately save us from years of deception and pain. Have you ever had to make the difficult choice between fighting for a relationship or walking away with dignity? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories of resilience and growth. Thank you for listening, and remember that sometimes losing what you thought you could not live without is the beginning of finding what you truly deserve.